Pinwheels in Croton-on-Hudson, New York. Recently, a French customer of mine emailed me a picture of a quilt that she made using her Daiwabo Taupe stash. It is a massive stash. She called her quilt the Little Brown Bear. I was so impressed with this quilt, I asked Dominique if we had permission to use it as one of our new block of the months. She informed us it was really a pattern by Yoko Saito. This is my version of the pattern that Dominique made with Yoko Saito's pattern. It is actually called Union Square, a traditional block with a unique sashing. I'd like to talk about this quilt and how I made it. Daiwabo is the leading manufacturer of taupe fabric in Japan. Taupe is the underlying color of the fabric. So, when we look at this type of fabric, we see that it is green, but actually the underlying color is taupe. The same if we look at our pink fabric. Even though it is pink, the underlying color is taupe. Daiwabo specializes in two types of fabric, the printed fabric and what we call the yarn dye fabric. I'd like to explain a little bit between the difference of the two. Daiwabo fabric is designed by Junko Matsuda. She specializes in both yarn dyes and prints. The printed fabric is printed on a very fine gray good. It therefore does not need pre-washing and can be just sewn and made into a quilt. If we look closely at the fabric, we can see why Daiwabo is so unique. First of all, it has multiple screens. For example, these leaves that are coming out here is a single screen, followed by the ones behind it. And then you have this secondary screen. So far, that's 3 screens. We also have these berries, which are at least 3 colors. We're talking about 6 screens now. And then we have these shadows, not to mention all the background colors. That is what makes Daiwabo such a unique fabric, the depth of the design. And that's what makes the Daiwabo quilts come alive. The yarn dye fabric is also unique to Daiwabo. To know if it's a true Daiwabo fabric, you will find a red line in the selvage. That's Daiwabo's trademark that it is a Daiwabo yarn dye fabric. Junko Matsuda also makes the yarn dye fabric, and she puts in these specialized threads that she calls her joker threads. That's what brings the design out and doesn't keep the design of the yarn dyes flat. Let me show you another spectacular example of these joker threads. This happens to be one of my favorite designs. It is called a basic. And what we mean by basic is that it is repeatable. They do not go out from season to season. Do you see this little knobby thread? It just makes this quilt spectacular. When making a Daiwabo Taupe quilt, I like to first start out with a monochromatic color scheme. What I mean by that is taking one palette of color, like pinks to the reds, and starting this as my base. From here, I can see that there's a little touch of blue coming through, so I might add a touch of blue, taking away a pink and see what happens. It changes it dramatically. Now if I want a little bit stronger blue, perhaps I would do something like this for a little more dramatic look. I can also add browns to this, and it becomes a little warmer. Take away one of the reds, and add a little darker brown. Do you see how it transforms? Let's take this away and see what happens if we add this style of a plaid. Now the pink becomes very obvious. Let's remove that pink. I think I'd like to try the red again. Look at how the red just zaps it, puts a little life into it. One of my favorite fabrics is this orange fabric. This is brand new. It's one of the new Taupism 3 collections. I can see this as a background to something fabulous, like an applique. Can't you see an old-fashioned applique on this? Let's see what happens if we add a little gray to it. And how about a touch of green? Do you see how it just changes? All of the fabric can be interspersed and integrated to get a true taupe quilt. I told you the basics of Daiwabo taupe fabric. Let me explain to you how I designed the Union Square quilt. The Union Square is a traditional block. Here is the block, right here. Yes, it does look like a bear's paw. It also looks like the letter T. But actually, it's a traditional block called Union Square. What makes this quilt unique is the way that Yoko Saito added sashing, vertical and horizontal, to have the blocks go in and out. What was fun about making the quilt was the collection of fabric. I used the Taupism 3 collection as well as basics. I probably made over 50 different blocks, playing with color, seeing which ones worked, which didn't work, and this was the final result. I knew I needed a light and a dark for each fabric. But what I decided to do was to make a negative and a positive of each block. For example, this is the negative and this is its mate. And also then, you see that the brown is receding, whereas the orange comes forward. Every single one of these quilts, or one of these blocks, has that value to it. I used both the prints and the wovens, the Taupism and the basics. I hope that gives you an idea on how to make a taupe quilt with Daiwabo taupe fabric. Please do not be afraid of combining the printed fabric and the yarn dye fabric. They really do work beautifully together. I had a wonderful time making the Union Square Quilt by Yoko Saito, as well as all the quilts I've made using Daiwabo taupe fabric. I hope you have as much fun too.